Good evening. This September the 5th, 2023 Board of Aldermen meeting is hereby called to order. Before we follow our normal flow, I would like to make everyone aware that this is being live streamed tonight on YouTube of Olive Branch YouTube. So the board and all the participants will recall, you'll be aware that retention is for 3 years. It'll be stored for 3 years for public view and also for transparency. Live stream going forward at these meetings will begin 2 minutes before the meeting start time. All mics will be muted until I gavel in, and then the live stream will start at that time. When the board goes in executive session, it will not be recorded in any way at all. The recording will be totally turned off as far as video and audio. And once the executive session slide comes up, the streaming will end and will not return after the executive session. And special thanks to IT for getting the state-of-the-art system working, and look forward to continuing to use it. Following our agenda, I'd like to ask Alderman Gil Earhart to lead us in a prayer, and then I'll follow with Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us pray. Most gracious God and Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for being our Creator and our Redeemer. Thank you, Lord, for this night that we gather to do the people's business. I ask and pray, Lord, that you would continue to bless those who serve our city, bless those who are citizens, and thank you, Lord, for the sense of community and the blessings we have in Olive Branch. Lord, I pray and be mindful that we have neighbors in need, that we'd come together as neighbors, help one another, continue to be with the people in Maui, other places in the world where catastrophe has struck. And Lord, as we go in this meeting tonight, I pray that the words of our mouths and the wisdom that we need would be blessed by you as we would direct the things that we need to do tonight. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you conduct roll call?
Aldridge. Here. Collins.
Here.
Dickerson.
Here.
Earhart.
Here.
Hamilton. Here. Henderson. Here. Wallace.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Obviously, 100% attendance. Quorum is present. Board, you've had before you the minutes of our regular meeting on August the 15th, our minutes from that meeting. Any question on the minutes? And if no questions, any discussion or motions? Alderman at Large Collins, motion to approve. Is there a second? Second, Alderwoman Hamilton. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Under public comments, first item is Ms. Iris Ferguson, Mr. Ransom Williams, and Ms. Teresa Williams would like to address the board, I believe, regarding a State Line Road street repair issues. Please come forward. As participants come forward for public comments, I ask, after you make the comments, there's a blue card on the little counter behind you. Once you complete your public comments, if you'll complete that card and give that to Ms. Stewart or Ms. Stout over to my right, your left, we'll have a record of who was here. All public comments are held to 3 minutes, and the board and I are open for your comments.
Hello, my name is Iris Ferguson, and I'm representing the Lionsgate Homeowners Association. Our concerns is at the State Line Road, we have some major issues. The first problem we have is the fact that our streets are really bad up there. The streets have been patched up every winter, and it's where the people don't want to ride down the street, so when they're coming down State Line Road on the Mississippi side, they ride in the turning lane. Now, the city has been nice enough to actually paint the lines in the street so they'll know that they're riding on the wrong side of the road, but it's still dangerous to the homeowners as they try to, in the turning lane, try to make a left turn into our subdivision. If we try to make a right turn into our subdivision, they jump over on around us and they ride in a turning lane. This is very, very dangerous. I have sent videos to the mayor, to the governor and to the senators about this, but it's nothing can be done about it. When I did bring it up to the mayor, he explained that they would have to get with the state of Tennessee to fix it because we're on the top end of the olive branch. But from that time, they went down and repaired Alexander and State Line Road, and the city of Tennessee did not repair their side. So I want to know what can we do to fix this problem for us, you know. Then we also have another problem is with the speeders. Because they built all these warehouses on State Line Road from Alexander on down, this coming down Riverdale or Crumpler, which is Kirby Parkway, going is a quicker way for them so they won't be bottlenecked at Hacks Cross, where Hacks Cross and State Line Road is really congested there. So they're going from about 50 to about 100 miles an hour down the street. I mean, just flying, usually between the hours of 5 a.m. to about 9 a.m. At lunchtime between 11 and 1, and then when they get off between 3 and 6. They are, I mean, speeding, I mean, just really fast. I mean, and the drainage drains right into our lake. We have a little pond up there. Well, when the lake backed up about a month ago, because it was overflowing, it flowed on a second area of our land, and thank God we had an area that was like a slump, which allowed and made it a second pond. And we did meet with the code enforcement and Todd Odom, and they said that it's a beaver dam, and the city of Olive Branch doesn't have an easement in that area, so they cannot fix it. But the problem is the flow of water that's coming from Tennessee under the roads into our pond. And when it comes in, it brings a lot of trash and everything else. So it actually has broken our fountain several times that we had to get repaired, and we had to, you know, incur that cost. But I was asking them, because a solution can they make to help fix the water flow that's coming in to our pond, which is going to overflow sooner or later. But they said that was on us because they didn't have an easement.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Anyone else?
Good afternoon. I just got a couple of issues about the streets out there. I know they're private streets, but the city had to approve, who approved those streets to come up to this code and standard for Olive Branch?
What's your question, sir?
They had to be approved, and they had to come up to the standards that you all set for us.
What the board, what's been the reference is to, it's a private gated subdivision, and the streets are owned by the HOA, and I wouldn't know how many years ago that was that the streets were approved. I know the subdivision's been a couple of decades, I believe, in that location, but.
Yeah, I've been there about 20 years.
Right, I don't. 20 years the subdivision's been there, and it's a unique situation. Yep, Lionsgate.
Yes, Lionsgate.
And State Line Road's unique because it truly is a state line with the state of Tennessee or the city of Memphis owning the north side of that roadway, and Olive Branch owning the south side of that roadway right down the middle. But I wouldn't know. I would assume the city engineer 20 years ago would have approved those streets in that subdivision.
Yeah, and my issue, if they were approved, they should have been up to standards then.
Were they not?
How could you approve them to be up to standard when they're not up to standard? Now I know the damage is done there, but they saying we're gonna have to, recut the driveways to a certain extent and all that. I think that should have been done when the community was built.
Well, since it's privately gated subdivision, they have to own and maintain the streets, and the developer put them in 20 years ago. I don't know, our engineer would have to speak to whether or not they met specs, but 20 years is probably a pretty long time for a street or roadway.
Well, those streets at the time the subdivision was open did meet our standards. Now,
So
20
you
years
are,
later,
in
they
other words,
don't.
change the standards,
Yeah,
right?
They don't meet our standards now, and I think at one time we had asked our engineer to go in and inspect some of it. I think some of the work had been done on some of the streets
Yeah,
to
we
try to bring them
finished
up to
one of them.
standard. And I think our previous city engineer was supposed to actually go out and look and see if those qualified, that we could accept some of the streets.
Yeah.
So if we were able to accept them, we would start maintaining those. I don't know whether that ever happened or not.
Yeah.
And I
Do we
think
have
part
any
of the
recourse as a community for a grant or aid or something from the infrastructure bill that they passed? We need some assistance to get those roads fixed, and I know we're a private community, but I feel like those roads should have been the same standard they were when it was built, or they should have been, it shouldn't be a difference in the standards right now that because it affects us from a financial situation.
Mr. Williams, street maintenance is very costly. It's
I
cost the
understand
city
that.
as well.
I understand that,
And
Mayor.
of the 2.5 years I've been here, there's been 3 different private gated subdivisions that wanted to give those streets back to the city because of the current cost. It's just extremely costly to
It is.
maintain them.
It is.
But that private gate makes it a private subdivision that every citizen can't access the street unless you
Yep.
live there.
I understand that, but we can't give them back to you all until we get them up to standards.
Basically, ordinances say that if we take those streets back, they have to be brought up to standard when we receive them back. And the cost for the HOA and the residents to get those streets up to standard is very,
Yeah,
very
now,
costly.
we pay taxes too now. We don't benefit from it, but we pay taxes.
Right.
It's not like we asking you for something. We pay taxes.
I don't, our legal mind to my left, our legal counsel,
I'm looking for
we're
a
not
recourse.
permitted to address streets that every citizen can't access. It's a gated community, so it's
That's
their
right.
responsibility as long as it's gated, correct?
Well, as long as they're privately owned, you could have you could have privately owned streets that weren't gated, but it would defeat the purpose. You'd lose the benefit of a private street if they did not have the security. But once the city accepts streets and they become publicly owned, then you cannot have a gate that's inaccessible to the public. The law says that you have to have 24/7 public access if they're publicly owned streets.
I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is my tax dollar, and I'm not being able to benefit from it. That's what I have a problem with.
Anything additional?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we might be able to find, excuse me, find some kind of recourse, like I said, a grant, a small bit, a small loan or something. We want our streets up to standard, but you know, we can't afford all that money right now. Because
I
we spend
absolutely
thousands of
understand.
dollars on that drainage thing out there. I know it's been over $15,000 to $20,000.
I'm just not aware of any agency that would give a grant to a private subdivision with privately owned streets. Mr. Swims, are you aware of any
No, sir.
history of that?
If it's privately owned streets, we've always historically said, if a subdivision wants to make those streets where the public cannot have access to them, and ask the city to bring them back, all streets are gonna age over time. And part of your responsibility would be, if the city's gonna take them in, to look to make sure we're gonna take in streets that have a city standard, been brought to some type of city standard.
Yeah, but see, I'm saying we are taxpayers too.
They do have an active HOA. Y'all, you're representatives or you're officers of the HOA, correct? You're an
Yeah,
officer?
I'm a resident.
Just a resident,
Okay.
me and her on
Y'all are officers of the HOA?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm not trying to put you in a position, we need some help, and I'm trying to find if we can find some kind of recourse to bring those streets up to standard.
I truly don't want to speak for the board, but I don't think we have recourse on your private street. I think we have a recourse, and we may already have from an engineering standpoint. Andy, I think we reached out, I believe, to Tennessee, to Memphis, regarding their side of State Line Road that needs repaired. And I don't know about the water running underneath from the Tennessee side. If we reached out to Memphis or not, we do need to do that.
I don't recall having reached out to Memphis. I did look into it. It's been some time ago, so I can't remember. I'll be glad to look at it with y'all again. But as far as trash and debris coming from the Memphis side, I don't know that there's a whole lot that the city could do about that.
But see, we taking on all that financial burden. Nobody else is taking on any financial burden. And I feel like that's unfair to us as a community.
I'm afraid it's the pros and
Taxpayers.
cons of a private subdivision. I've had people come, want to give us their streets. We've had people come that want to give us their private cemetery because they can't maintain it anymore. As costs go up, people want to jettison, they want to get away from these things because
We
the
don't
cost
want
is
to
so
drop the
high.
whole burden on you.
Right.
We know we would have to pay something, but it should be some kind of recourse that we can work out between the community and the city.
Gotcha.
And
You
that
do
hurts your
understand-
tax base too.
You do understand that the law forbids the city to work on a private street. It's not the city doesn't want to or anything, the law forbids the city from doing it. if we go out and do it, it's considered a gift, and a gift to whether it's a private citizen or a group of private
Yes.
citizens, it's illegal. And if
So we
the
have no
mayor
recourse
directed us to go out and
whatsoever.
work, we directed the city workers themselves to go do it, he would be in violation, and if we support it, we'd be in violation.
I understand. But I'm just trying to find out if
there's
there's
a-
anything
sure.
that we can get, grant loan, anything. We want our
My only
neighborhoods as nice as
suggestion would
anybody
be
else's.
that when y'all have a street that's the absolute worst, that y'all try to focus on some certain streets and try with some of the funds that you do have, even if you only do one street a
Yeah.
year.
But we
is to try
spending
to
money
get-
on something we don't have any control over. Like I said, we spending thousands of dollars on that drainage, system out there.
Well, the street issue though,
Erosion and all that.
well,
See,
the
that's money
street
that we
issue, for
need
y'all to
going
get it
towards
to
our
standard,
streets.
for us to accept it, you're gonna have to spend some of your HOA money. There's no way around that.
Yes, but what
So
about,
if you can do that at one street at a time, and then say, okay,
Yeah, I
let us
understand.
inspect the street, it's okay, we'll start maintaining Street A. Then you work B and you do C.
yeah, I understand all that. But my issue is we having to spend money on that drainage system out there. Nobody else is spending any money, it's just us.
The drain goes into a receiving pond or detention pond that's owned
Right.
by the HOA.
You say
It's
we
common
own it,
open
but we can't
space.
even, what if we can't even fill it up or do anything?
Yep.
The
I'll-
HOAs typically do maintain common open space, whether it's public or private, so y'all are not the only ones that maintain the drainage and the functioning of drainage on common open space. Other HOAs do too.
But we're the only ones who are receiving drainage from the state of Tennessee.
Gotcha.
We're receiving drainage.
Understood.
The
Understood.
trash, if you go and look, there's a big drainage hole and all that is coming from Tennessee. This is not even Mississippi stuff. You know what I'm talking about? This is coming from Tennessee. And I mean, I pick up bottles, garbage bags, stuff, cans, just household stuff. You know what I'm talking about? There's stuff that people not just, just saying somebody coming around the pond throwing stuff in the pond. It's not that kind of stuff. It's residential stuff that's coming out of people's houses. And instead of them throwing it in the garbage can, they're throwing down that drainage ditch, and it's flowing right into our pond.
If the board's okay with it, what I'll do is I'll have COO Andra put together a list of things that we have done, because we've tried to help the subdivision
Yeah,
out from.
anything, you know.
We've done sewer grates, we've done painting fire hydrants, there's been a list of things that we have done, and then get Mr. Swims, our engineer, to put together what we can do as far as asking the Memphis government, asking Memphis, Tennessee to do things on their side of the street, and I can provide the board that information unless you have other questions.
I do have a comment
Really,
from
that
Mr.
should have that drainage ditch should have tapped into our sewer line, and it should have went on through the sewer line like it should. That means that drainage ditch should have not been allowed to run into that pond. It should have been initially when they designed it. It should have tapped into that sewer line, and that stuff goes on to wherever it goes with the sewers, because that's what it is. It's sewage.
DeSoto County has a DeSoto County regional sewer system, and stormwater is not allowed to dump directly into that sewer. I understand what you're saying. It needs to go somewhere, but it's not allowed to go in the sewer because it's got to be processed at a very extremely high cost. So it can't go in the sewer line.
Running into their sewer, it's their sewage. Why aren't they running
That
into
we
their
don't know,
drainage?
because we have no jurisdiction on Tennessee. We have no authority to tell them how to route their sewer or their drainage systems.
But you accepting it
Now, I
though.
would recommend this, because I agree with Alderman Wallace. You've got a private entity that is looking for public funds, so to speak, and it's just not available. There are attorneys that represent HOA firms that help them with their management, with the collection of dues and fees, et cetera, and they may have some ideas on private funding for HOA entities. I would suggest maybe you seek some of those, because they may have some ideas. Pardon?
We have attorneys.
No, but I'm talking about attorneys that specialize in representing HOAs in terms of collection.
Yes,
Okay.
we have an attorney that specializes.
Then I would ask your council if there's any funding entities out there that can help privately owned subdivisions like yourself.
But doesn't a certain amount of the tax dollars that everyone pays, it goes for the roads, it goes for different
does.
things?
It
for the
does.
police
It
department.
does, but the law's very specific. Once general public's locked out of an area, then we can't improve that area. Once they're locked out, and it's privatized as a gated subdivision, is exclusive, and everybody can't drive on that road, they can't use that road.
So what would they use that road for? What would be the benefit?
Well, if years ago, if it were not a gated community, there would have been no gate, and general public would have went in and out just like they do every other city street. We've got 380-something miles of city streets, and citizens can use those all day long, but they can't use your subdivision road because it's
They can
gated.
come in our subdivision. I mean, people can come in, I guess I'm not understanding.
You don't, they not have to have a code to get in your private subdivision?
So what are you saying when you're saying
What he's saying,
using
we
our
would have to.
streets?
In other words, if the general
we would have
public
to have
can't
it so they-
access it, then
Accessible to the public.
What
I understand that, but what's the benefit?
the benefit
We
is,
pay taxes here, we paying taxes.
Right.
You know, and so our money is going to fix the roads fix other roads. We're not getting any of the benefit.
right. Because others got locked out. Right, wrong, or indifferent, exclusive and gated means that some people get in and other people don't, and if the general citizen can't use it, then the law doesn't allow us to improve that road.
I understand what you're saying
But-
thoroughly. But what if we can't even open the gates up, because, we got so much repair to do in there, and we won't get any assistance from you until we get them up to standard.
Right.
And my thing is that the standard changed, so that changed our position too.
I just don't know that the standard changed. It
Well,
sounds like 20 years
I think it's
ago,
the condition changed.
the condition of the road changed. Okay. It just got wear and tear, normal wear and tear over 20 years. Okay.
No, the rules changed. We gotta do something that wasn't done when the community was built there. We got to put that bill, not only the roads, the changes of the road, the access off the road into the residence. We got to redo the curving and stuff like that. What I'm saying, that should have been a standard that was applicable to us now, and it should have been done under that system.
Who told you that you needed to change the curbs?
Right.
Oh, one of you, we had somebody come down when we had another HO president. He said we had to redo our driveways and all that stuff.
I'm not aware of any reason we would make you change anything with a curb or a driveway. The only
I
thing we'd
didn't
say was
either.
the road would have to be back up to standard, and we say standard, that condition that we would accept it in. The standards haven't changed. The
All
mayor's
right,
correct,
then.
the standards haven't changed.
But we were not told that. We said we would have to change the cut in our driveways and everything.
What I can commit is to get the board the information I've mentioned of what's been done, and Mr. Swims and I can ask the city of Memphis for help on their side,
Yeah.
whether it's drainage or the
Yes.
roadway, and Mr. Swims can give a copy of the specs for roadways and streets that the HOA can look over, and you'll have those specs then to look at, and you
All
mentioned
right.
you had legal counsel that can look at it as well, and see what the most feasible way you could
That's
get
what
in
I'm
and
looking
get those,
for.
get them caught up.
Are y'all still using Keith Collins' company as your management company, or have y'all changed? Were y'all still using Keith Collins as your management company?
His Dinkersfield is our attorney.
Okay.
Up on.
Well, do y'all have a management company that actually collects all your
No.
dues? Or do y'all?
The board does that.
The board does
So
that,
we
okay.
collect the dues and.
Well, that may be something you want to look into, is a management company that Alderman Earhart was
We
talking.
really can't afford a management company to collect it because of the type of fees and stuff that they were gonna charge. And that's why, the present board stepped down and then the new board stepped in, because we have a lot of senior people over there that's on fixed income, and they just cannot afford it, Some can and some can't, and we just
Understood.
could not, we didn't wanna do our homeowners. And when you sell your home, no telling what type of person you're gonna get behind that, so we just rather keep what we have right now, cause, they're good homeowners, and so we just
Well,
decided we would collect.
what
it
he's
ourselves.
saying, you need to collect everybody needs to pay the dues
Yes.
on a homeowner. And I hate to say that.
No,
And-
you telling the
and-
truth.
And your question about privatized, when we approved it, I was on the board then. It was approved to be private for the safety and all of that, for the people that bought in there. That's what they wanted. That's what the development wanted. He was gonna promote it as being gated, safe community, that whether he wanted it or not, when you bought in there, you're supposed to understood that, whether you did or not.
Well, I did
And that's why
understand that.
what happened to on the roads. 20 years ago, whenever it was built around that time. And like I said, I was on the board, and I know the developer that developed it, and that's what his vision was. He wanted a safe, gated community on this side of Olive Branch. And that's when we didn't, and that's when we approved it like that. And of course, the roads, everything goes with you. Now, I do think everything you talked about, State Line Road, we can look at that and try to work on that. And like Mr. Dickerson said, I don't know if you're not collecting 100% of your dues, somebody not paying their wage on that HOA. I hate to say that, but you probably should maybe hire somebody that would help you get the monies. And there was a HOA place that opened here one time. Didn't they remember 4 or 5 years ago?
That managed
We
HOAs,
can
And
probably-
and they managed HOA.
but they
So
charge
there
too.
is place out
They
there.
charge too, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they all gonna charge, but if you're not collecting but 50%, maybe they collect
I mean,
75%.
we're collecting probably about 85%.
Okay, well, y'all doing good then. I mean, it may not be
just
enough,
the
but what,
expense.
yeah,
It's just
unfortunately,
the price
you
of
know,
doing business, everything is higher,
yeah.
talking about.
You may try to start
after
doing one
COVID-19,
street at a
prices
time,
went up
like,
3 times higher, talking about something that you could get somebody.
how
out
many
for
houses y'all have in
60,000.
there?
82.
82?
Yeah, no, it's
83, they have one
83
more
houses
building.
over
Okay.
It's not exclusive just to Lionsgate. A sister subdivision that I won't call their name
I
is on the
understand.
southwest end of the city limits of Olive Branch. They just went through the same thing. They got a beautiful gate up, private, secured, safe, but they just got through repaving their streets at the cost of $20,000 or $30,000 to get their streets repaved. I know it's expensive. They just got through paying it. The city couldn't help them either, even if we wanted to.
$30,000, I could afford that.
You could do that. All
We're
right.
not talking about that.
We actually had a meeting with y'all once before over at City Hall, and the police chief came, and we talked about how many tickets had been written on State Line Road, and there were way more than I thought would have been written over there. And
It's
in fact,
awful.
I was over there maybe 2 days ago, and they had somebody stop in. 2 cars had, I mean, they're over there patrolling, and I know, because I drive that a lot, there is a lot of speeding, a lot of people driving in that middle lane, but like you said, we can't be there every day. So if we're there 2-3 days,
Yeah.
in 2 more days, if we're not there, they're back to exactly what they were doing before.
I think we're-
There's just no deterrent, nobody's scared, they're just taking their chances
No.
and driving right down the middle or driving fast.
We're doing a
Work.
pretty good job. The chief sent me the geostats from, he had a geofence around your subdivision. 50 officers for the month of August were in your subdivision, and they spent over 9 hours in your subdivision, 50 separate officers, is that right, Chief Cox? In just 1 month, 50 officers were in that subdivision for over 9 hours. So we'll keep doing the very best we can, but there's 383 miles of streets in this city, and we've just got X number of officers to dispatch out, but we're gonna keep doing the very best. And I'll get the board the information, Mr. Swims and I'll get the HOA the information on the streets, and maybe there's a win-win somewhere
Yeah.
in there for us.
Yeah, we appreciate what you're doing now,
I
don't
mean,
get us
we're
wrong.
not saying y'all haven't did anything for our subdivision. And I know I've contacted a lot of y'all, talked to a lot of y'all, and I've been pushing the issue. Talking about, we want our presence. We want y'all to know that we care about Olive Branch, we care about our subdivision, and we wanna keep our subdivision up. And we're like the gates of the door that comes open and you want it to look nice. And everybody that comes in our subdivision talks about how nice it looks, and we work hard. And we're just trying to keep I called somebody out there to give us an estimate on just sealing the cracks. It was $100,000 just to seal the cracks in the subdivision. And it's like, wow, what I'm talking about? We need hay more than seal, what I'm talking about? So it's like, we don't have $100,000 to give somebody just to seal the cracks, and that's not even a solution. That's just a Band-Aid on it. So, and then because there's so many major constructions going around here, don't nobody want no small project. You can't hardly find nobody that's gonna wanna do like one street, you know what I'm talking about, or a half of your street until you get the rest of the money. They're not looking for that. They getting the big bucks. So coming to us to do a piece here and a piece here, it's hard to find somebody. And then when you do, they need to be licensed, insured, and bonded, because you don't want them in there, hitting somebody's car, throwing something, just whatever, And my thing is, it's like, we We really need our streets fixed. I mean, if we could do it piece by piece, if maybe if y'all could recommend some contractors that be reasonable but dependable, you know, somebody that's gonna, you know, that's not gonna come over there and do a halfway job or just get your money and they off and gone, you know, these are the things that, you know, everybody deal with, even in your own home. I know you deal with this, you know, somebody comes and say they're gonna redo your bathroom, you give them half the money and you ain't seen them again, you know, so we don't need that situation because we can't take that loss.
Mr. Swims and I will get those specs and then make a recommendation, not for somebody, but give you a list of people that do smaller jobs, because we're faced with that as well. Then you could pick the
But
person that you like.
and I think we talked about this before, there's a price to pay for delay of maintenance. So even though you feel like that the sealing of cracks is not such a good idea, that can help a bigger problem from occurring the following year. So it would be better to do some level of maintenance than nothing at all, because it gets very expensive once the roads really get in bad shape.
I won't hear from
No,
you.
my short answer was this. Tonight, there is the short answer. There's no immediate solutions that we're aware of.
Understand.
So I would recommend that we support what Mayor Adams said. Let us do a little research, put together
I
a
would
list.
appreciate that.
And if there's somewhere we can help, we're glad to do it. You just gotta understand, and I think you do that.
I understand.
Right,
I
yeah.
thoroughly
So
understand.
let us take some time and research and see if there's
And
some
I'm
things we
willing to do
can do
that.
to help you.
You know, I'm just looking for any recourse, you know, I'm not trying to dump anything on you. I'm
No,
looking
we
for a
understand.
solution where both parties are involved if possible. If not, if you can recommend somebody to help us, fine, I would welcome that.
Very good.
We're glad
Thank
to-
y'all very much.
All right, thank you. I
Thanks
didn't mean to take so much
Thanks for coming on.
time.
No, that's what we're here for. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
What y'all do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now at the announcements under Mayor's Award. I would like to invite up our CAD technician, Mindy Cagle. Come forward, please. Good evening. Again, as usual, I get to say this is one of the most fun parts of the job. There were three team members nominated for the Mayor's Award for August of 2023, three different nominations. The award goes to CAD technician Melinda Cagle, submitted by Director Fessmeyer. I read what he wrote and what he submitted. I'd like to recommend Melinda Cagle for the Employee of the Month. She consistently goes above and beyond her job duties as an AutoCAD technician and has even contributed to building our permitting application process. Melinda's dedication to help other departments in any way she can is truly admirable. One of the things that sets Melinda apart is her willingness to go the extra mile for her colleagues. She ensures that everyone stays hydrated and cool, which is important this time of year, by providing drinks, and she has even brought popsicles, which I would probably welcome if I was out in 98-degree weather, and cooling rags out of her own pocket for the people working in the field. This small gesture shows her thoughtfulness and consideration of others. Melinda's willingness to help wherever needed is commendable, whether it is assisting with projects outside of her usual responsibilities or supporting her colleagues in any aspect. She consistently demonstrates her commitment to the team's success. Melinda's hard work and dedication deserve recognition, and I believe she would be an excellent choice for the Mayor's Award for the month of August. And with that in mind, comes not one, but two crisp $100 bills and one crisp $50 bill. $250 for the Mayor's Award. Thank you. And as a subtle, thank you very much. As a subtle reminder, those dollars are not from tax dollars; those are from private sources to recognize you for going above and beyond. So, thank you, Mindy. Mayor's general updates are next. I will not read every one of these, but just to make sure, board, that you're in the loop. From a human resources standpoint, our open enrollment for insurance closes a week from today. We just have a handful of employees left to get enrolled, and that's going to close out successfully. Our walking trail in the city park off Old Goodman is complete. It's been widened and resurfaced. It's approximately a mile of pedestrian trail that's been completed. And our Church Road soccer field walking trail we're working on having that installed as well. September the 16th is Bucking in the Branch Pro Bull Riding Rodeo. Gates open at 6 p.m. and showtimes at 7:30. That's again by the soccer fields at the George Harrison Park. Touch a Truck on 9/23 in the city park 10 to 2. Highlights from the operational standpoint. During the month of August, the building team issued 266 permits and conducted 344 inspections. Public Works has been rather busy as well. I see a few of them in here tonight. 24 potholes, 12 street repairs, sanitation repaired 27 inlets, 3 sinkholes, cleaned 5 ditches, restriping of crosswalks at area schools and Camp Creek Street, and they continue to work on Hamilton Circle South, which, as we know, has been widened. Repaired 80 water leaks, conduct maintenance and associated repairs on 117 lift stations. The board's probably aware, but those lift stations require daily inspections and daily maintenance, all 117, which is a lift within itself. Dealing with the lift stations, it's a pretty heavy lift. They dealt with 33 sewer backups, resolved 67 water meters changed out. Gas did 1,345 locates so that building could take place to make sure the gas lines were properly located. They resolved 34 reported indoor gas leaks at different homes, installed 30 new gas service lines, and repaired 7 cut lines. Code enforcement initiated 243 total cases. 138, or 57%, were classified as health and safety, and the other 30% were vehicle ordinance violations. The team had 6 weedy lots cases that were brought before the board, people not cutting their grass, 3 found to be in violation, so they've been pretty busy as well. Senior Center's been busy offering B12 shots, movie attendance for seniors, self-defense class conducted by the police department with 22 attendees. Airport department hangar construction has started for 2 new ground lease hangars, and construction of a 3rd hangar will begin in September. These are large-scale hangars that are ground lease. I'm going to say in the ballpark of $1.2, $1.3 million or thereabout for these hangars, large hangars that are going to be a very positive add to the airport. Air traffic still up. Total aircraft traffic operations past 10,000 takeoff or landings for the 3rd straight month, so still growing there. Public safety has been rather busy. 3,357 police calls for the month of August were dispatched out, some low priority, some high priority. 326 fire department calls and 447 ambulance calls were dispatched out as well. And the last couple sheets, it shows you the police department's August public relations events, a number of those, as well as their September public relations events. So that's very positive as well. From our DeSoto County Regional Utility Authority, from our DRCUA standpoint, CFO May has advised us they've completed their budget, and what we like to see happened, you don't always see this, but a 22 cents decrease per 1,000 gallons of water is going to take place. So it's a decrease of 22 cents per 1,000 gallons of sewer flow, which goes on our water bill. Is that correct, Mr. May? Sewer bill, 22 cents decrease per 1,000 gallon, and it shows you the decrease of the average water bill in the second line there. So always good to see anything cost-wise go down for sure. Any questions on the updates? Hearing none. Consent agenda. Any questions on our consent agenda that's before you? No questions. Any motions for approval of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Alderwoman Hamilton, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderwoman Henderson, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I am pleased to say that we were able to help the city of Lambert. You saw that on the consent agenda. Lambert, 1,200 population, right below Marks, Mississippi. The mayor sent out a plea letter to all the other cities in dire need of a patrol car, to help service their area, and we have one that we're getting ready to retire, so we're gonna donate that to them for $1, and that'll help Lambert out, and it's one that we were taking out of service anyway, so we wanna be a good sponsor of those cities as well. So Mayor extends his thank you to the board. Consent item on the Planning Commission to set a public hearing for consideration of application to amend the project text and development plan for Robinson Crossing Plan Unit Development submitted by Joe Frank Lauderdale on behalf of project developer Barry Bridgeforth, Pleasant Hill Land and Development Company. The purpose is to make minor amendments to the project text to reflect conditions in the subdivision as already built and proposed through its completion, including connections to setbacks and updates to the designs of streets and sidewalks and walkways. The 231.6 plus or minus acre property is zoned planned urban development and is located at the southeast corner of Malone Road and Church Road. Public hearing date is set for September the 19th. Anything to add?
No, sir.
That's on the consent agenda anyway. Next, need a motion for that. Thank you. Is there a motion to set this hearing date for September the 19th? Mr. Wallace, motion for September the 19th hearing date. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Collins. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 2, public hearing date for consideration and action on motion declaring the condition of the following properties to be amendments to the public health and safety and directing either the city staff or contract labor to clean the property forthwith. So only the 2 that are in red, have not been cleaned. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I can show you some pictures if you'd like of the changes that have occurred since the packet was submitted. This is the Lot 116 Fox Creek Homeowners Association. It's still in the same condition as you can see on the photo. Same with their second property, Lot 159 on Fox Bend Lane. Again, in need of maintenance. This is one that the condition has changed since your original packet went out. You can see that the grass at 9090 Sandy Road has been mowed. There's still a little bit of weeds here near the culvert entrance. There's still a few problems with the pool, but we figured if the homeowner's been contacted and they've indicated a willingness to clean that up, so hopefully they'll get that done, and we didn't believe that there was a need to determine this to be a nuisance at tonight's meeting. This is the Shepherd property, 10932 Oakleaf Drive. These are the before pictures that went out in your packet, and you can see this is a picture from today that it has been cleaned up. And this is Oscar Harper Lot number 6, located on Sandage Road. See the before pictures up at the top, and then you can see picture as of today. It has been mowed. There is a shipping container that's still on the property that the owner of the property has indicated a willingness to get rid of that shipping container and move it. If that doesn't get done, then we can pursue that through a separate case.
Thank you, Mr. Gambone. Does the board need any more information on the 2 Fox Creek lots, Fox Creek Homeowners Association? Any motions to have them declared a menace and to be cleaned by the city or contract labor? And Mr. Dickerson, motion to have it clean, those 2 cleaned. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Earhart, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries to address those 2 lots. Under old business, consideration of bids opened August the 28th, 2023 for natural gas supplies. My understanding, all 3 of these to be tabled. Okay. The board, I advise that items 1, 2, and 3, a request is for those to be tabled and put on an agenda. Is it a date certain? Do we know when that would? 19th, okay. Is there a motion to table the first 3 bid openings and deal with those on September the 19th? Mr. Wallace, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Aldridge. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New business, consideration of recommendation to approve final change order number 1 on the contract with Parks and Parks Water Well Services Incorporated in the amount of $851.30, increasing the contract amount from $1,198,000 to $1,198,000, $851.30, to accept the project as complete and authorize final payment in the amount of $132,441.30, including retainage for the project referred to as the Pleasant Hill North Water Plant. Anything to add to that, Mr.
Yes.
Swims?
Yes, sir, just a small change order where we had some minor ups and downs and changes in the contract, but the contract was completed, so we do recommend this minor change in the increase of $851.30 for final payment of $132,441.30.
Thank you, Mr. Swims. Any questions by the board? Any motions?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Hamilton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, consideration of amendment to the City of Olive Branch Comprehensive Utility Ordinance, Section 4, subparagraph J, regarding leaf collections. Board, this was, we had met a time or two, I believe, and talked about this. This allows loose leaf collection to continue to be taken up and the leaves cleaned up or sucked up, vacuumed up from December 1 to March the 1st. Leaves are not required to be deposited in disposable containers and are set forth to be picked up as we had been doing before with the leaf vacuum truck from December 1 through March the 1st. This basically is just a change to our ordinance to get it in line with some of what we had been doing and some of what we talked about we plan to do going forward that we talked about in the budget planning meeting.
Mayor, I did have a question on that. Is this unique to any lot size?
This is not.
Okay, this is, so.
This is across the board, all
Okay.
lots.
So it's more date specific than lot size or zoning size?
It's date specific and it also amends our older ordinance that really didn't allow for it.
Right.
It puts it in line with what we had been doing.
Much cleaner and in line, okay.
Right. Any other questions on the,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Mr. Earhart, motion to approve as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Ms. Hamilton, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Actually, 3, 4, and 5 are intertwined together somewhat. 3 is consideration of the rodeo production agreement, M5 Rodeo Productions. This would be, I believe, the third of such PBR pro bull riding rodeos that the city's had. Contract's been evaluated by Mr. Dye, and just like to go forward with this rodeo that we've got scheduled. I guess it'd be the 4th rodeo, instead of the 3rd. It would be at the soccer field at the George Harrison Complex. Mr. Wallace, motion to approve rodeo memo.
Second.
Second, Ms. Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is consideration of outdoor festival approval pursuant to the city open container prohibition ordinance, which allows alcohol to be sold at this outdoor festival while the rodeo's taking place. For that singular date, for that date and time only. Mr. Dickerson, motion.
Second.
Second, Mr. Collins. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And the final item in that string would be consideration of authorized activity, a noise exemption pursuant to the city noise ordinance for this event only, whether it be band or PA speakers, et cetera, for this singular event. To waive our noise ordinance for this one event.
So moved.
Mr. Collins' motion. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Henderson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, consideration of proposed amendments to the ordinance establishing rules and regulations for the safe operation of the Olive Branch Airport. Mr.
And,
Dye.
Mayor, you have board, you have in your packet the airport use ordinance. On page 11 of the ordinance, you have the days and hours of operation section. That's section 2.1 on page 11. And the only change there is to add Independence Day and Labor Day as approved holidays when the airport would not provide standard operational services such as fueling. The other change to the ordinance is to Exhibit A at the end of the ordinance, and the Exhibit A contains the approved lease rates. And so those have been escalated by 4%, which is the first escalation in a couple of years. So new leases that are approved going forward would be entered into at the lease rates specified by the board in the ordinance. And so those two changes are recommended for approval by the airport director and by the COO.
Thank you, Mr. Dye. COO Andre, anything to add on the airport changes that are proposed? Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Or any motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Alderman at Large Collins, motion to approve. Second, Ms. Henderson, excuse me, Alderwoman Hamilton, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, consideration of a resolution setting a tax millage rate for fiscal year 2023 and 2024, which the positive news is a lot of hard work by the board and finance and department heads. No tax increase, it remains unchanged, is what this would mean for our residents. Any motions to approve no tax rate millage increase? Ms. Henderson, motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Wallace. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Item 8 is consideration of the proposed budget for the fiscal year October the 1st, 2023, and in September the 30th, 2024. The board was in the publicly noticed public meeting as far as our planning meeting that took place, and just highlights of the budget. First, hats off to all the board members for working so closely together. We probably accomplished in 3.5, 4, 5 hours what some cities take 2 or 3 days to accomplish, so great work by the board. This budget includes a 3% cost of living adjustment for full-time employees, 2% for part-time employees. It includes capital requests. We had a total of $68,793,497 in capital requests. The board's being asked to approve $61,615,614. Department heads asked for 19 full-time positions. 7 were approved, 6 of those being law enforcement officers. $4.3 million is set aside in this budget for a water plant to be located at the Craft Road Water Tower. $1.5 million in this budget is for a hangar expansion at the airport, which is funded by the state legislature. Funding is included to start design and construction of a new public works building, an animal shelter, and a fire station, which are critical that we do those. An estimated $3.5 million issuance of general obligation gas utility bonds to partially fund a new public works facility. An estimate of $3.2 million in revenue bonds to be paid for by the 1% hotel tax proceeds for park projects that at this point appear to include 6 pickleball courts and adding some soccer fields to the Church Road soccer field area. Those are the highlights of the overall budget. We're talking $87.1 million operating, $67.3 million in capital for $148.4 million for fiscal year 2024. Thanks to the board for working diligently with the department heads and myself on this, as well as CFO Jason May. Any questions about the about the budget?
Make a motion, we approve it.
Motion to approve by Alderman at Large Collins. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Earhart, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Budget approved as presented. I'm gonna break protocol just for a moment and invite Chief Financial Officer Jason May forward. Put him on the spot big time. Come all the way up, yeah.
Come on down.
On behalf of myself and the board, I'd like to give you this gift card for a nice meal at a nice restaurant, and hopefully you can gain back some of those hours that you spent working on the budget at night and weekends, because that's a mighty heavy task, a budget that size, whether it's a corporation, government, whatever. So just a great job in handling that budget for sure.
Thank you.
Very good.
Is there a motion for,
Close.
we're on executive session time, we're getting ready?
We're going in.
All right.
Yeah, right now.
Move so fast.
Okay.
Is there a motion to close regular session with the intention of going into executive session to discuss personnel matter in the Water Maintenance Department, personnel matter in the Ambulance Department, personnel matter in the Parks Department, and potential litigation discussion with city attorney? Is there a motion to leave regular session to go in executive session to discuss those items?
Second.
Ms. Henderson, motion, second. Mr. Wallace, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in, is there a motion to go in executive session to discuss the 4 items I mentioned earlier?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Earhart, motion. Mr. Wallace, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in executive session.